Good afternoon. Something's working. Hey, welcome to the SHEDcast. Hello, Tony.
Hello from
Hey,
deepest Reading of Berkshire.
deepest. Are you allowed to say Berkshire? You were telling me yesterday it doesn't exist anymore.
Well, it seems to. The post office think it does. It's just the government want to give us extra tiers of government.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, middle management.
Yeah.
Extra layers. Love it. Welcome, Tony. As you say, calling from Reading. I'm in Guernsey, and welcome. We've got a few viewers already on Facebook. Let's have a look. Facebook and YouTube. So welcome to everybody. And we might have Alex dropping in on us, but he dropped out of the stream just a few minutes ago. So I don't know if he's coming back, but we'll soon find out. So a couple of things. Welcomes. This is show 6 in our SHEDcast, which, when you think about it, suddenly makes you check on and think, we've been doing this for 6 weeks, which means we've been locked down for 6.5 weeks or 6 weeks-ish, which is kind of scary. I almost haven't noticed that it's been that long, but yeesh. How's it going for you, Tony? How's the lockdown?
It's going well. Apart from the fact I'm sitting in here and looking out the window, it's really nice out there.
It is, yeah. Sunny Guernsey again here. Little breezy, but quite nice. But nonetheless, what are you drinking today, Tony?
Coffee. I've got my old guy's rule mug.
Excellent.
I brought a couple of spares.
I know you've got to dangle it above the computer. And what have you got there? Bring it right up to the camera. Computer whiz. Yeah, okay.
I keep getting these mugs. People keep giving me these mugs. But this one I prefer.
On that one.
This one is more me.
I love that. I've seen that shed image on a T-shirt.
Yes.
I don't know if it's got it on the strapline there, but the dark side of the shed.
That's it, yeah.
As an homage to Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, was it?
Moon, yeah.
Yeah. And that prismatic illustration, I love it. Absolutely brilliant. But I saw that on a shed. Sorry, not a shed. On a T-shirt, probably 20 years ago, and had no idea that there was any Men's Shed connection. Well, I hadn't ever heard of Men's Shed 20 years ago. So
I don't think anybody had.
Yeah. Apparently it started in the UK about 20 years ago. And Australia, they started in
2011.
2011, Australia.
Yeah, I think so.
No,
I'd have to look it up on. I can look it up on the other screen.
It was in the 90s. In fact, the big conference, which was the Australian Men's Shed Association, I think was 1997.
All right. I'll shut up in the corner then.
Well, that's what I've read. So, but yes, if you want to open up a tab browser window on your spare screen, Tony, if you haven't guessed, dear viewer, is an IT whiz. So he has multiple screens in front of him.
I haven't got enough room on my desk for a third one.
Fab. So yes, if you look that up, and in fact, I was reading on the Shoulder to Shoulder magazine, which is I'm going to throw myself in a bit of a tizzy. I think it's a monthly magazine produced by the UK Men's Shed Association, Shoulder to Shoulder. And I was reading in, I think it was last month's episode edition. There was an article there from a guy who was part of the sort of co-founding member of the Australian Men's Shed Association, and he was the guy. I'm shocking for names, so I've forgotten his name already. But he was the guy who stood on stage and said, men don't easily talk face to face, they talk shoulder to shoulder. And that's been adopted as a slogan for UK I'm going to show myself up here, but by some men's shed associations around the world. I'm not sure if it's Australian or American. I think it might be the American one. That's their formal slogan. But of course, the UK Men's Shed Association magazine is called Shoulder to Shoulder. So yes, if you don't know about that, look up on the UK Men's Shed Association website. And I'm just having a show of that now. Menssheds.org. ukmsa.org.uk, which I think you can also hit it up with ukmsa.org. Oh, don't quote me. men'ssheds.org.uk.
But if you do look up UK MSA, you end up with Medical Services Association or something as well.
Right. Okay. Well, yeah. Fine. Yeah. Well, men'ssheds.org.uk. And well, look at this. Look at this. Look. Actually, I've got another one that's got the /newsletter-archive. So if you go to that, then you can look up the Shoulder to Shoulder archive and download all those magazines. And it's really nicely produced, really beautifully laid out. So yeah, have a read of that. Yeah, that's a little plug that we didn't expect to be plugging. So what have you found?
The Albany Men's Shed opened in 1978.
There you go. That's way before I thought. I thought it was
I'm
starting
dyslexic and
to happen
daft.
in the 80s, mid 80s, but that predates that even more. Awesome.
At this point, I should say I'm dyslexic and daft, not necessarily in that order. And reading out loud is quite difficult. But it goes on. There's quite a lot. Wikipedia is quite a good article if you're desperate for something to do.
Excellent. That's 5 minutes worth of reading. Excellent. Brilliant. Now we've got someone coming in from Facebook with a comment. Nick Cannon. Good afternoon. Afternoon, gents. Waving from sunny Isle of Man. Greetings, Nick. Nice to have you with us. And it's worth chipping in. We've got 5 viewers currently on Facebook and 1 on YouTube. So it's worth saying that on both Facebook and YouTube, you can add a comment. We see it coming in live here, and then we can publish it for everyone to see. But obviously, if you are on Facebook, then there's a link just above this video that says streamyard.com/Facebook, I think it is. And you need to allow them to use your name and icon. Otherwise, it doesn't put your name and picture icon. So we don't know who you are and it looks a bit weird. So if you could do that, that would be great. And in fact, somebody on Facebook is just commenting, look, here it goes. Look, Facebook user anonymous. No, da-da-da-da. But hi, buddy, Foxy in the shed. Now, I'm sure that is Jeff Fox. That's what I'm guessing. But Jeff, if it is Jeff indeed, I know another Foxy, actually. It might be Martin Foxman. Oh, crumbs. So
we could be here all afternoon.
Can you click up and allow StreamYard to look at your Facebook profile? I'll hide that for now. Brilliant. What have we got coming on today? Let's have a look. And this is sort of a running order. I'm going to talk a bit of an update on the 3D printing of respirators and breathing masks, that whole PPE, personal protection equipment thing that we've been working on. After I've jabbled about for that for a bit, we'll see what else crops up. Then we'll PKO, put kettle on, have a tea and a wheat, and then we'll come back and we'll talk to Tony in Reading about the Silvers Workshop. I like that name. Tony, where did the name come from?
When we first started the Reading shed, we got no idea where we were going to be. As I said earlier, Berkshire disappeared and it became Reading, Wokingham, Bracknell Forest, and Maidenhead, which has been the Royal Borough of Windsor and Maidenhead. We weren't sure where we were going to be because, as I'm sure most of the shedders will know, it is quite difficult finding premises that are within most of our financial reach.
Sure. Yeah.
So we had a couple of meetings in a community space, and so I said, well, we need a name. We can't start doing anything really until we got a name for ourselves. And a few names came up, and somebody, I think it was a gentleman by the name of Rusty, who's no longer with us, unfortunately. He was 92 and still bright and cheerful, but he passed away about 18 months ago now. And he popped up with this name. And it's nicely reduced to Silvers. If somebody says, "Oh, I'm going down the Silvers," you know where they're going. Mm-hmm. And we had lots of fun. I noticed that you on the menu you just put up, you've got the apostrophe in the right place. We had lots of discussion about that as well. The apostrophe is after the S, apparently.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, yeah, like that.
you're looking at a man who had to attempt 3 times to get O-level English language.
Well, you're talking to a guy who has 3 GCSEs in English, and 3 because I kept getting a D, which in GCSE language is a fail, or they're not allowed to call it that, but it's a D. And so I had to say it 3 times. So yeah, we're on the
Same, yeah.
I
Did
haven't
all
got
right
a
in maths.
diagnosis, but gibber, gibber, gibber.
Okay.
I haven't. I just remembered I haven't shown you my mug. This afternoon, I am flying a Royal Air Force Jaguar, I think it is, because I've got a very dear friend who used to fly Jags with the RAF. Second to none is their motto. And so here's to the RAF. Coffee on board.
I'll drink for that.
Cheers, chaps. So where have we got to now? Now, okay. Well, other comments coming in. Derek, our man in Guernsey, says, "Yo, can't stop long," and he says the correct use of the apostrophe is what separates us from the animals.
Yes.
And then he goes on to say to make that hang on, what did you write, Derek? Apostrophe, and then you wrote make that apostrophe. I don't know what's it. Is there? Did you spell anything different there? I don't know. You're an animal. You're an animal. A message from Tom. Hello, Tom. Nice to see you. It's small, but it looks like a tornado. It does. Jag or tornado? Oh, crumbs! I'm showing myself up. It's twin seat, and I think the tornado's a single seat. Those kids like to fly alone. I think the Jags had. Well, there's various variants, and it's got that little dibby on the tail there. And I think, Tony, can we crowdsource this? You can look it up.
I was going to say, do we want tornado crashes or just tornadoes?
Tornado. Oh, so yes. So Derek's chipping in saying Jaguar, the RAF ATC, Air Traffic Control, used to call the Jaguar a constant velocity variable noise machine. I must admit, I had a desire when I was little to fly for the RAF. I don't have what it takes at the end of the day, but I just love a lot of the culture around it as well. It is the best kept secret. The Queen's Flying Club, it gets described as best organisation to be in ever in peacetime. But then there's those other times. There we go. So what do we got?
I've shared you a picture of a tornado if you want to see it.
Oh, that's clever, isn't it? Look at that. Okay, so yeah, and we got Derek saying no, tornado is a 2-seater. Okay, so it's fine. Okay. Yeah, it looks even more like a tornado close to. Yeah, thanks, Tom. And then he says, definitely twin, dear. Twin seat, not dear. Okay, yeah, thanks for clarifying. Tornado! Yeah, okay. Now, so quite why I've got that on the mug, because he used to fly Jags. I'm gutted now. My mug life has just been a sham. Right, that's.
Have you got emotional support there in Guernsey?
I think I might need it. Yeah, I just assumed it was a Jag. I'm gutted because those Jag pilots, they're a bunch of. Sorry, just breaking up on me. Or at least that's what the Jag pilots used to say, because there's a lot of rivalry between the Jag and Tornado squadrons. Nick says, "What about the Vulcan bomber? Heard that? What a beast! Incredible noise." Yes, I echo that metaphorically. Yes. Yeah, we've had them in Guernsey when they were still flying at some of the Battle of Britain memorial flight type stuff, and yeah, beyond noisy. Yeah, and then Derek chips in. Maybe tornadi is the Latin plural of tornado.
I thought he was going.
Yeah, he did say, didn't he? He did, yeah. Yeah, cool. There. Equals emotional support. That's nice.
Maybe he can stay.
And then Jeff is the man, the mystery man off Facebook. He has clicked to allow Facebook and StreamYard to share names. You are always my winged man in the flying shed. The story behind that, Tony, is that last June, July, I can't remember now, every year, that time they have a harbour carnival in St. Peter Port. And part of that is all sorts of nonsense, but part of it is man-powered flight. And Jeff, I can't say he cajoled me. He just told me I'm doing it, really. He just, right, I've got this idea and you're coming with me. And we dressed up as airmen in retro boiler suits and whatnot. And we jumped into the harbour wearing what was effectively like a 4-foot square shed. But the insult on the injury that it was torrential rain that night. So the comedy was, all that night it was torrential rain. We're trudging around on the seafront, going to all these damp rags of people and collecting donations for the shed and whatnot. The funny thing is that they were wetter than we ended up getting wet. We jumped in the harbour, but everyone else was just soaked through to the skin. And Jeff is saying, I'm still damp. Well, madam.
I'm saying nothing.
And Jeff says, mugs, on the subject of mugs, where's your retro one? Jeff, you should have been here last week. I was flying retro mug last week. I almost picked it up because it was the next one. Actually, it's right behind me, actually. There you go, retro mug full of water, as it happens. And you might find out why later. It is here, but I flew that one last week, so RAF is out this week. Fab. What else did you say? I mixed some cement and did some grouting this week. You should be proud of. Well done, Jeff. I take it that's in Barbados that you were doing that, Jeff, because Jeff's been isolated in Barbados. And when I say Barbados, what I mean is in his garden that's been dressed up to look like Barbados. And this numpty has been doing daily web stream jobbies from Barbados in the bottom of his garden.
So not Barry Barbados. Oh,
Barbados.
Barry in South Wales.
Not that Barry, no, Barbados, tropical Barbados, because of course the weather in Guernsey is very much like Barbados. So, the moment he goes down the bottom of the garden and you see the words Barbados and the sunshine and the sunset, oh, it's beautiful. But yeah, he's been absolutely brilliant. And he's been doing films of stuff. So I was filming Top Gun in my Tornado. What a fruitcake, dear oh dear. And Derek's chipping in saying, my bro was in the RAF and worked on Buccaneers and Jags. He hated the latter and always referred to them as the pussycat. And Tom's chipping in is, we're into the Latin business. I haven't got my dictionary to hand, but I suspect the plural of tornado would be tornadoes, or do you mean tornadoes? I think you've got a spell checking error there, assuming it is Latin. Tornado, I don't know. Well, yeah, Tony will Google it.
That wasn't one of the subjects I ever covered at school.
It wasn't in my school, no. Derek says, not in the Roman Empire Flying Corps. Oh dear. Utter nonsense. I love it. So let me, if I may, indulge and just tell you a little bit about the PPE program that is happening in Guernsey. We've got a band of about 40-50 people running 60 plus 3D printers who have been printing the headbands for face visors, face shields. And I'm just looking around to see what I've got here. And this is one of them. This is I say it's one of them. It's not actually one of them because we've had this really interesting. So the idea is that face band goes around there, the headband. It's kept away from the face so that the visor is got lots of airflow, and the rubber bands go around the back. I can't see whether I'm going left or right. And he's got technology happening. And then on this one, this is a random thing that I'm just experimenting with last night. Someone did ask, have you got a visory bit that goes up above the face shield just to stop that as a point of ingress? If someone does cough and sneeze sputum at you, what's to stop it coming in down the top? So I've made this with a what are these K-snaps, I think they're called. One of our makerspace guys has chucked my way, and that is like children's clothing and bottom of duvet covers. I think they use them a lot as well, and that creates a bit of an overarch. So I haven't got the front visor on this, but you get the idea that then provides a bit of over the top protection. The problem with photographing it, as I was sharing with the group last night, some photographs. The problem with sharing it is that you can't see it. It's transparent unless you've got reflections. It's really hard to see. But this band here has been injection molded. So in the first 2 weeks, 10 days ish of us gathering a whole crowd of people and getting things up and running, we printed 2,000 headbands. They take, depending on the printer, between 2 and 5 hours a piece. And we knocked out 2,000 of those, and they went primarily to the hospital here, but also into care homes and other frontline staff like St John Ambulance and so on. Mammoth effort. But in that time, there were some other chaps working away in the background who made machined steel mold for injection molding. In case you don't know, injection molding is where you take a couple of plates of metal and you machine out of it the shape of the profile of the thing you want. Then you jam them together really hard, so there's a void in between, and then you heat up and inject at fairly high pressure the plastic in through a hole, and it squirts out into all that cavity, and then you pop the thing apart and then punch it out with these sort of push out pins, and this pops out. So where it was taking the 3D printers at least 2 hours, up to 5 hours to print, the injection molding machine is chucking them out in 25 to 30 seconds a piece. It's astonishing. So this guy's able to chuck 1,000 a day. But that's not to negate anything that anyone did on 3D printing. The great thing about 3D printing, often called rapid prototyping, is that you can turn stuff around really quick.
And you can experiment if something's not quite right,
and
you can change your file and you make another one which is slightly different. With an injection molding, they're brilliant if you've got to make thousands of the same thing.
Yeah.
Part of my father's family business was injection molding.
Right.
So I grew up around injection molding machines, hot and sticky and smelly.
Yeah. Absolutely amazing technology. But we wouldn't have got to where we are today by just going down the injection molding route. Yes, for the iteration, because there were layers of iteration on the 3D print side as we refined the file and made it cleaner and smoother, and then reissue that file to everybody, and everyone updates their files and prints the new version. But it took the sort of 10 days to get the machining done on the mold and get the plastic and the injection molding set up. Then, of course, once it's set up, game on. Nick's just chipping in 2,000 bloody hellfire. Impressive indeed. Chapeau indeed. Yes, indeed. And Jeff says, well done, guys. Fantastic effort. PE success story. Shout it loud and proud. Yours were done bang when needed. Well, that's the thing, is the great thing with the 3D print is that you can do it on a drop like that pretty much, which is amazing. So it's a success story all round. I was talking to someone the other day, and there was a note of, was the 3D printing a waste of time? Absolutely not, because without that, there'd have been, as Jeff points out, sort of a 10-day gap before you got the things up and out. And actually, that's a good point you were saying about iteration. What got injection molded is based on what was 3D printed, and the stuff that we learnt on the 3D prints, the iterations of that design, have informed this. So it was really worth doing.
I was quite surprised. I was listening to Radio 4 at lunchtime, and I thought those things lasted several days, but in fact they gets thrown away and incinerated after effectively a single day's use.
Yeah,
They can't clean them. They're a single-use item. They can't be recycled.
that might depend on what it is,
Yes.
because yesterday Guernsey State's Health Department put out a video talking about their PPE, and this is what we wear, and they told everyone, very informative video about this is how we put stuff on. We don it like this, and this is the articles. The face shield visor that they were using had a soft foam band of sort of an inch thick up here, and then a translucent sheet, very soft, bit like the acetate that we're using at the moment, and elastic around the back. And yes, they were binning and incinerating after, I assume, a day on the COVID ward, or after a shift, presumably. However, I'm guessing because that's got the soft foam elements, that's what makes it hard to sterilize.
I think the discussion on Radio 4 was that it was very difficult with any of the plastic that we've got to sterilize it, because you can't put it through a
autoclave.
Autoclave. That's the word I was looking for.
That is a question. That is a difficulty. However, these can be, chemically done with alcohol or sodium hexa, dooley what's it, etc. I can't remember what it is, but there's.
I like a good technical term.
Yeah, they got stuff that's anti everything. So we think that they can be cleaned. Certainly, we're providing them to the care homes at the moment, and they have a cleaning regimen for this sort of stuff. So this hopefully will fit into that. It was one of our early questions, especially with the 2-hour print time, 2-hour plus, is are they going to wear it for 2 hours and then bin it? Because we can't keep up with that. Now that we're injection molding, we can keep up with that. However, we're on limited supply of the visor material. We were using a 1mm PETG film. PET is the same as lemonade bottles are made out of. PETG is a slight hybridization for 3D printing, as far as I understand it. But we've gone through, I don't know how many massive sheets of that, but enough to do the sort of 2,000 full masks. But we're out of that now. The chances of finding any more of that on island, very slim. And the opportunity to import that now, pretty much gone. So we're using acetate. This is 180 micron A3 acetate that we're cutting it out on a vinyl cutter. And that's working pretty well. I've got a box of 800 acetates just here. But of course, that's only 800. If we need thousands, we're going to have to get more and more. So yeah, the less dumping and the more sterilizing that can be done, the better, I think. But what do I know? So we moved on. Once we got the injection molding stuff sorted out, we've kind of moved on a bit in terms of the design side of things into face masks. And I flashed one of these around the other week. This is based on a file that's come from Spain, from a design group there. So the main skirt body of it is Spanish. Theirs had a hole in the front, which you then plug something into as the filter carrier. Then you put the filter, and then a cap on snaps onto the front. We then decided that having 3-part print wasn't a good idea, because you've got to bond that carrier in. So we decided to hybridize it and then put the grill into this, so it prints this way up on the bed, and it lofts up this way. So it's a much tidier print. And then we spent quite a lot of time designing the caps, the filter caps. So the filter material would sit on there, and then that cap would clip around the edge. But the tolerance is to get this clippiness going on with the material in between. You can do it, but then the moment you put it on someone else's printer and the settings are slightly different, or the filament's slightly different, it's too close. So we went through countless iterations of that. But then we've ended up standardizing now onto this design. So the same sort of back end, similar kind of front end, but we've got access to some commercial grade filter material, but it only comes to us in this shape as offcuts from a commercial operation. They cut out circles. You can see where the 4 circles were. We get the little rug shape in between, or the animal skin shape, and that's what we've been doing. So I can twang, twing, bonk, twank. So that's all one print. Prints that way up, straight up in one go, and then we print this filter carrier. Okay, that flat side down, and then it's got a bit of shaping there, such that this fits in. And just holds it enough, the rug shape, the animal rug. And then when that clamps on the front, there's a perfect sort of a 1 mil shaped or 2 mil edge round the whole rug to do the clamping. And as you can see, actually on the filter, this has been in for a good few days. It's clamping up nicely. You can see the quilting effect. I don't know if I can catch the light on it. Let me move my light. You can sort of can't see it. You get the idea. And then that clips on the front, and instead of clipping on, it's a loose fit, so there's no tolerance issues there. If it comes out a bit big or small, it doesn't matter. And then we're just using a good old rubber band provided by Guernsey Post Office. Thank you, Guernsey Post Office. So we have a prodigious supply of rubber bands, and then that is really quite tight, keeps a positive pressure on the filter membrane the whole time. And then I don't know if I've got one here that I put straps on. Let's see, I can't find it. But then we're using rubber band straps to go around the back and tie off. And then we've been playing with, let's get rid of that, silicone sticky edge to go on here. The big problem here has been, this is what they call the medium-sized mask. By the time you put, it was about 6 millimeters of silicone D extrusion there. By the time it gets to there, it starts on me, because the nose is too tight, it starts weeping out the nose and blowing out the cheeks. So that's not great. However, we've done a rehash using the wider body, and I don't know if the camera will pick up, but it's no, because of perspective, you can't actually see that it's much bigger. Perhaps if I do it like that. No. No, it's hard to see that it's actually bigger, but it's this one, yeah, a bit wider, gives me more nose, and that goes on. That looks ridiculous, doesn't it? But if I seal that up, there's a little bit of leaky, but way, way better. So we're getting there. Still not entirely satisfied. This silicone feels a bit stiff. It could do with being a silicone foam rather than an extrusion. It's got a D shape to it. Let me show you. Grab a little offcut. So that's the extrusion shape, and it's nice and compressy, but it would be better in my mind if it was foam, because it would be much more conformal, especially if you're like me and you've got a beard, eh? So that's where we're at. We're getting close. We've been through so many iterations of bits of plastic. But we're getting...
Can you recycle the plastic, or is it...
Short answer, no. Long answer is yeah. But then you need a grinder to chop it up, and then you need to have a re-extruder. One of our guys at the Guernsey Makerspace bought one a few years ago, which was a brilliant, foresighted move. However, the company he bought it from then went bust and never got him the parts that he needed to get it working. There was some fault with it. They needed a new board, circuit board, and it still sat in his cupboard. Really frustrating, because it's a neat possibility. However, when you extrude it, it messes with the polymer chains. So if you then just keep re-extruding it, print with it, re-extrude it, chop it up, re-extrude, print with it. If you keep doing that, it just gets weaker and weaker and more brittle. So actually, when you re-extrude it into ready-to-go filament, 1.75 millimeters or whatever, then they recommend that you put virgin plastic with it as well to strengthen it. It's the same with a lot of recycling of plastics. You know, most of the stuff you get, yogurt pots and all that sort of stuff. Yes, it can be recycled. They do recycle it, but they have to add in virgin material. Otherwise, it just gets weaker and weaker. A couple of comments coming in. Derek saying, isn't that a bit rough on the face? Jeff then says, not with a beard, Derek. And then beards equals leaky masks. Also, many nurses don't have beards. That's a matter for debate. Not hygienic, or they are ladies. Yes, it could be either way. Yes, you're right. There are less nursey beards. Let's stop with that because I'm going to dig myself a hole and embarrass myself.
Can I lend you the spade?
So if anyone else has been tinkering with this, just one little nugget that we found. We've had some really hideous prints. This is quite a good one. But with it sort of spalling up on the sides, it's really hard to see because of the lighting and the definition of the camera and everything. But the wall thickness here is 1.2 millimeters, and most people are printing with a 0.4 millimeter nozzle. So that just means three widths, and then that makes up a wall. But as I was watching it really closely, I was noticing that the middle one was sort of bobbling up. It wasn't extruding as much plastic. So the last 24 hours, we've been experimenting with tricking the software, telling it that it's got a 0.5 millimeter nozzle, keeping the 0.4 on it. At which point it then only goes around twice, and it's sort of inside and outside layer, but then over extruding. So it makes, instead of being a nice bead of plastic, it's a slightly spudgy bead, but you put the two alongside each other, they weld together, and that's what's happened here. This is actually really nice and tough, flexible, but really quite strong. And that's using this trick of using sort of two walls, but with nothing in the middle. And that, so far, for two or three of us that are experimenting with it, that's proving to give us much better prints, much better quality. Again, I can't really show you, but quality it's up where we need it to be. No visible holes or weaknesses. And we're also tinkering with the idea of this one. You can't see it. It's a light grey plastic, and the stuff is transparent, but it's got a coating, a silicone non-conformal coating. Conformal coating, sorry. That's often used for coating printed circuit boards and stuff like that. Ring-a-ding-ding. So we're using that on the outside just as a way of sealing up any microscopic holes that we can't see, but that would allow the ingress of unfiltered air. So we are playing. Derek says, just clarifying, it's beards that are unhygienic, not ladies. How I beg to differ. Fewer nursey beards. Yes, you're absolutely right. And finally, we're getting rid of them. Got to go. Have fun. Bye. Oh, great, Tony. We can breathe easily now. He's gone. Good grief.
Never met the guy.
No,
So I can't really insult him until I met him.
Keep it that way. Yeah. Oh golly, Jeff's now chipping in plural of beard eye. And in case of Marcel, Beard Eye Wizard. Beard Eye or Beardy? That's my nickname, is Beardy. Can't think why. Anyway, so that's the update as to where we are with the whole PPE thing. I know a few people have been asking about it and asking for feedback and feed forward and all that. So thanks for your interest, everybody. I hope that is of interest. We were talking to, I'm going to embarrass myself, was it Jeff from Dalbeattie Shed last week? They've had guys who initially had some resistance from the NHS printing the face mask things, They say, "Oh, please cease and desist." Grr. But they have been able to do it privately to people they know that would benefit from having something like that. Because, as he commented, the supply chain to the region is okay for PPE, but actually the supply chain into the region beyond that, down to all of the areas and all the properties and all the care homes, and that's really stressed at the moment. So they're trying to help, which is good. So I'm sure there are sheds all over the world doing this, just because there is such a need for that level of assistance. And it's not to knock anybody. We know that our health service is up against it and really struggling to hold it together. And I heard the other day that there was a massive order of PPE coming into the UK, a huge, great consignment of, except it failed. It hasn't actually come, at a national level. What can you do? Anyway, we're not here to knock them. We're here to support them. And anything anybody can do to people who need this kind of protection, who don't currently have it, then that's a really worthwhile thing to do, I think. So, right, now that Derek's gone, it's a bit quieter on the chat. I think, if it's right with you, Tony, we will take a short 5 to 10 or 15-minute break. We'll have a tea and a wee, and we'll be back in 5 minutes. Is that all right?
Yeah, it's all right with me.
And then you can.
How about the audience?
Oh, stuff them.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, not interested.
I wasn't going to say anything.
No, we have 10 viewers as it happens at the moment. 7 on Facebook and 3 on YouTube. Greetings, one and all. Just to reiterate, you can on Facebook and YouTube add a comment, and it comes into us, and then we can publish it on screen if it's clean and trustworthy. And if you're on Facebook, also worth mentioning that you need to click that link up there somewhere over there that says allow StreamYard to use your name and Facebook profile picture. Otherwise, it just comes in as anonymous, and that's really irritating. Jeff says, I'll send Tony your shed jump video.
I'll be looking forward to that.
That'd be great. Yeah, we have a fantastic video of Jeff and I jumping in the harbour wearing a shed in torrential rain. It was a very memorable evening for not the right reason in a way, but it was just pure magic. We had an awful lot of fun doing it. So let me kick in the wee timer. Tea and wee timer, and we'll see you back here in 5 minutes. Chilly. Hey, just rearranging my t-shirt. You caught me out. Yeah, we are back, and I'm all dishevelled with my beard. Oh, for anyone that doesn't know, me saying it like that, beard, that's part of the Guernsey accent. We have our own Guernsey French language called Guernsey French, the patois, and it sounds a bit like, I don't speak it, but I know a few phrases. Petit porche gros pour nez. Don't know if I'm getting that quite right. My mum is fluent in Guernsey French. I wish she was here to fill it. She is up the road. She's not gone. But I wish she was here that she could fill us in on a bit more Guernsey French. But petit porche gros pour nez is a Guernsey French saying that means the little pig takes the biggest parsnip.
Thank you for that. I will treasure that for the next 5 or 10 minutes.
Oh, you tinker. Now, I've got a video that's been sent in by Jeff. If I can just open up this application in the background, Jeff. Let's see if I can save this video. Oh, I don't know if I can do that. All right, I can play it on my screen. Can I download it? Okay, I can. This is very technical. This, my word.
No good looking at me. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. Now let's see if I can. Oh, look, there's someone behind. She's behind you.
Oh, thank you for that. Thank you. I thought 3 minutes isn't enough time to go downstairs and make myself a cup of coffee, so I asked my good lady to do it for me, and she has.
Sent out for one.
For which I thank. Yes.
That's lovely. Very good service. You're a very lucky fellow. Let me look at the downloads and
For the last 40 odd years.
Wow, what a darling. Prime time. So while that's uploading, have you got biscuits to go with that, Tony?
No. I'm on a diet. I've lost, in the last 18 months, 2 years, I've lost something like 3.5 stone.
Oh, well done.
And according to my doctor, I've got another stone to go. So that's proving a little more difficult.
Okay, well, keep at it, and it'll.
It didn't help when we closed the shed up as for the because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
There was we have a box of Twix in the fridge, which you can buy for 50p each. And they were going out of date, so I had to bring them home.
Yeah,
there's no point in leaving them because they were about to go out of date. So I've eaten
you
those.
don't want to waste those. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, very good point. I was just getting a bit upset as I came back from tea and wee, and yes, I'm filled up with coffee again now. I haven't got any biscuits. I was a little bit ticked off with myself, and also a little bit ticked off with JP in the background. Last night we were talking about him doing some baking. He's been a bit reticent to bake. A few weeks ago he had a baking spree and really loved it.
Has he got any flour?
We have flour. Yeah, we've got everything. Yeah, and but he's been a bit reticent. And we talked last night about him doing some baking this morning, and he was all kind of excited about the idea. But he hasn't done any baking this morning, claiming that he didn't do it because he didn't get a massage from me last night.
I was having a laugh.
But then I remembered there's a silver lining to this cloud, that we've got some of these chaps. Hello. And I just realised that if I eat 5 of these, that's 5 of my one a day. So I got that.
Not sure it works out quite that way. But
smells good. Oh, that does smell very good. If I just peel this in front of everybody, they're all going to be yearning for some citrus fruit. Look at that. Oh,
I had one of those for lunch.
Oh, they're good, eh?
Yes.
So that's the healthy option over the biscuits, actually, any day. Tremendous. Now, tell us about the Silvers Workshop. I've got some pictures in the background. Let's bump this in. Here we are. Here's the Silvers Workshop. Tony, tell us about this place. How long's it been going, and what do you do there, etc., etc.?
The first meetings were in February 2014, and we ended up finding some space in a shop in the middle of Reading called Jackson's, which had closed down. It was an old-fashioned department store, which made Grace Brothers look positively modern, because Grace Brothers had a lift. Jackson's never did. But we ended up in a true man cave, completely below ground. And to be perfectly honest, we've moved into this space here, but you'll notice there are no windows.
Yeah.
And on the left-hand side of the picture, there are no windows there either. Which is great for security because, you can't see in it and see, well, there's some nice tools. We'll have those.
Also great, if I can just chip in, I'm guessing that's also very good for chuck keys.
Chuck keys.
Yeah, when you start up the lathe and it's got a chuck key in it, you're not going to break any windows.
No, we try not to do that sort of thing. I learned not to do that when I was 14, which is a few years ago. But this is the main workshop space where we do the day-to-day work. Behind the pillar is the only loo in the place, but the rest of it, the benches mostly were made by us. The one on the far side is actually a piece of bench we found, which I found in a skip. The Central Library in Reading were throwing away a skip full of stuff, and we helped them by removing 2/3 of it into our space, and they could fill it up again. Unfortunately, the second filling they did, there was nothing we wanted. But this must have been about Christmas time, because if you look on the gentleman on the left, is making a reindeer, but which we'll come to those in a minute.
Well,
And there are some in the background, in the middle, at the back. So
okay, should we? I'm just thinking, should we run the video, and then
Why
you can
not?
talk us through it at the full guided tour, and then we'll get to the reindeer.
I'm not sure about guided. It'll be a tour.
You can be tour guide Barbie. One side, just a note that when I start playing the video, both of us will have to unmute our mics so that we can do the walkie-talkie over bit. Yeah, okay. So here we go, and then unmute your mic.
Right. As you come in, you come around the space, and Barry's getting in the way again. We've got the bits. Alan is a widower who's been not with us since Christmas, unfortunately, because he has cataracts. Around the kitchen, courtesy of a well-known software company in Reading, and various things. You'll notice the lots of work here being done. Not. And then coming around, we have a tie-up with Laithwaite's, the wine people. That's the Times Wine Club and various other ones. And we chop them in half, and that's our oldest member, a gentleman by the name of Peter Juiceknap. This is our machine shop, woodworking machine shop, which all this equipment in here was donated, and is fairly good condition. The only thing we bought are the green dust extractors. These bits of wood, by the way, come out of trucks. If you see a truck with steels in it going to a building site, all the bits of wood between them are beech, oak, and teak. Our Scouse builder standing around as usual. And this is our metalworking shop. With my engraver there, we'll come back to that a bit later. We've got a milling machine, another bandsaw, and a Bernard attached to a lathe. And you notice there are no chuck keys anywhere near it. A lot of this equipment came from a gentleman by the name of Mr. Pazard, whose wife, he died unfortunately some years ago now, but his wife kept his shed warm and dry for 2 years and then donated all the contents to us. So the milling machine, the lathe, and lots of other things came to us. This is out in the yard. The thing in front of you there is a bird feeder, which is what the Scouse builder's making. Paul there had a stroke some years ago. The boat in the middle is no more. It's now in kit form. It fell off.
Oh dear.
It was pushed several times because it was never going to float.
Decorative.
The little cupboard there's got a compressor in. This thing is a sandblaster.
Oh, okay. I wondered about that. Yeah.
And then this space here, when we moved into this space, there was a fridge. When I turn round, this is our hardwood store, and this is a fridge. When we came in, it was flooded, and it was appalling. You see how rusty it is. But all the wood in there is teak, oak, Oroco, and bits and pieces. I've got no idea where it comes from. It just appears.
That's magic.
And finally,
it grows on trees, I think you'll find.
Oh, thank you. That's very useful. This is our mess room, crew room, and that's my cup of tea. And we've got various bits and pieces. We've got internet access, and we've just been donated by Asda enough money for a new printer. When I took this video, we had 3 different printers, all doing different things.
Printer as in 2D printer or 3D?
As in just a colour printer. And Asda gave us enough money to buy a new PC and screen and an A3 colour inkjet printer. So we can do plans and whatever. And people say, well, I don't need a computer in the shed, but yes, you do. It's amazing how many times you just want to say, well, how do I do this? Or we've got, from dangling from the ceiling there is a projector.
Yes, I saw that in the crew room, yeah.
I went into a school in Bracknell. There's a town up the road from us. I bought a dust extractor, and they were clearing the school out. And I looked up, and there's this projector dangling from the ceiling. I said, what's going to happen to that? Well, it'll go in the skip. I'll help you with that. So I took the thing down with the guy's help, I couldn't get the stand, but the stand wasn't going to be any good anyway because this thing was dangling from the ceiling about 12 feet above.
Yeah.
And I actually made I think Heath Robinson would be proud of me because it's a wooden thing that holds it from the ceiling. And it works very well. We've got a pull down screen. So if we want to do a safety video or a chat, we can do that. And one of the things we do at the Silvers is to have in people who come and talk about health issues for men. Things like prostate cancer, bowel cancer, hearing loss, and things like that.
That's a
And
great
we
idea.
have people in and they come at lunchtime and sit. One of the things we do is at 12 o'clock we stop. Everybody puts down their tools and comes into the crew room, and we sit and have our lunch. We don't provide lunch. Well, there's no, as you can see, there's nowhere for a kitchen or anything. Though I've had a couple of guys who've come in and said, "Can we cook for you?" Sorry, guys, no. Hey, there's nowhere and no equipment, so
Tricky, yeah.
but we sit down and have a chat and have a good laugh, and that's part of what sheds are about, is the social bit. I mentioned Alan there. He was widowed 18 months ago and is very lonely. He was before Christmas, before his cataracts got really bad. He was coming in every day of the week. We go open Monday through Friday from between 10 and 2, and he was coming in each day because he was just lonely.
Sure.
And another guy that we saw there chatting was told a year last November that he had 2 weeks to live.
Oh, golly.
And he's been coming in ever since. And his wife puts it down to his visits to the shed that have kept him up and away. Because before he was just sitting at home waiting to die. And now he comes in and annoys us at regular intervals.
Excellent.
And we have lots of different people with different stories. And it's a fun place to be. Quite good. Judging by the age of this, we've also changed all the lighting since that was done. One of the things that, as we get older, life seems to get darker. So I've got something like 12 8,000 lumen fluorescent light LED lights now above the space in there to try and make sure that there are no shadows, there are no spaces where somebody can hurt themselves.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's really important.
One of the things you can see in that picture, dangling from the ceiling, is a couple of dust extractors. They take the air in and take out the submicron bits. One of the concerns we've had all the way through is dust extraction. We spent quite a lot of money on those dust extractors in there, and we still have a problem with dust. But it's one of the things, and we're learning. I've fixed computers for the last 50 years, or played with computers for the last 50 years. We've got builders and all sorts of other people, but there are lots of things where you do in the shed where you think, well, there must be somebody with those skills, but they haven't walked through the door yet.
Yeah. No, that's what I mean, it can be a frustration with any organization if you need particular skills and they're not there. But that is also one of the wonderful things about a shed and any organization mashing people together, is that they're very often such a diverse group. Oh, I know about that. And somebody knows something about it. I think that's absolutely wonderful.
In answer to Jeff, no. It was we do it for things like we get in vices to go with all the other vices we've got. We clean off the the paint and then resell them. Do quite nicely out of those on eBay. Because one of the other things that we are is completely self-sufficient. The rent on this space was originally zero, but the gentleman sold his business, and the new landlords increased our rent from zero to £6,000 a year in one hit.
Ouch!
Which we've continued because of what we sell each year and do other things. We can meet that requirement. But when we first started, I've been doing various fundraisings over the years, and I've noticed that funding is fashionable. If you wanted money 5 years ago for kids who were not in school or education, NEETs as they were known, you could get money come hand over fist. And then 3 or 4 years ago, all that funding disappeared.
Right.
And so I have a friend who was running a scheme in Reading, and she was out of a job. And all the kids were still there. They'd still got the same problems, but the funding had gone, so they disappeared. So when we started the Silvers Workshop, we decided we wanted to be independent of grants. Apart from anything else, just filling out the grant forms and all the rest of it. I'm not saying we never claim for a grant. We got a grant from ASDA. We've just had a grant from the Berkshire Community Fund for a subscription to Zoom. And twice a week at the moment, we are having Zoom conferences, which mean the guys can get together. And again, it's like having lunch together.
Yeah.
But we start at 10 and finish at 11 and just have a get together.
Yeah, very cool.
It's good.
We've been doing this, obviously, SHEDcast on a Wednesday afternoon, but then a much more local, informal thing on a Saturday using Google Hangouts, which is free, and then you can add in lots more people. We need to probably moderate the time on that, actually. If there's any guys watching have an opinion on the time. We've been doing it at 11 o'clock on a Saturday morning, which is kind of shed time. But not that many people are coming along. We've seen up to half a dozen. But I've got a feeling it's because they're just engaged in doing something at that time of day.
We just decided, I started on a Monday morning because it was the next day after I did it. And I found that one of our guys is having dialysis. And he piped up and said, I can't do Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays because I'm having dialysis. Okay. So we've now got one on a Monday morning and one on a Thursday morning. And I get between 8, 10 and 20 people popping up to say hello.
Great.
We're having a competition next week to see what sort of backgrounds we can get. Which sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. It depends on the contrast between you and the background behind you.
Quite, yes. This system is by StreamYard, and it does allow green screen background replacement. And I've got a green screen because I used to do video production stuff like that. I've got a green screen. I have tinkered with it, but it wasn't as reliable. It needs to be lit properly, and forget it. You can have my lounge wall. That'll do.
You're the one with the Guernsey stone in it.
Yeah, proper Guernsey granite.
I could recommend a plasterer.
So can I, actually. We have a diamond plasterer at the shed. I'm hoping he'll come on the SHEDcast soon. What he doesn't know about plastering ain't worth knowing. It's great. But more of that another day, so long as I can swing him in. Now, we're talking about financial sort of independence. Should we just look at some of the things that you've made?
Yeah.
And let's start here, which is very amusing. I assume you painted the golf ball noses.
I didn't personally, but I know a man who does.
Gotcha.
He has several pieces of wood, about sort of a foot, 18 inches long, with screws in them.
Okay.
They are absolutely lethal when they're just lying around, but he screws the balls on the top and paints them.
Great. Very cool.
I don't know why we also seem to have got an awful lot of golf balls. If anybody needs any, I seem to have got about several hundred unpainted ones.
Yeah. And well, I'm surprised you've got that many left because you guys have been busy. Epically busy. Ludicrously busy.
I will say this is several years.
They're escaping and catching a lift and making a run for it.
Well, we need to raise at least £6,000 a year. So we have a stall in
at £1 each. That's 6,000 Rudolphs, Tony.
No, we usually charge between £15 and £20, depending on whether I like the look of you. In your case, it's 25.
25.
But you'll notice one of the things we discovered the first year, the first year, was that if you put the antlers in and you're transporting them, the antlers have a habit of getting damaged. So you'll see the duct tape on the back.
Ah, yes, I see. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that's Sol's antler.
Yes.
Sol's antler. Songs. Antlered.
Yes, now that was the first year or the second year.
Yeah, so we can just about see them there.
Yeah, and that was somebody's trailer.
Yeah.
2 trailers actually, by the look of it.
Keeping anonymous on that one.
Yeah.
And then that one there, the one that's leading the pack, that one's antlered. That's obviously that's the stag, isn't it? Obviously.
I can't possibly comment. I didn't check underneath.
You're looking for a little twig, I think.
I'm not answering that question.
So let's.
But we have a stall in the middle of Reading in late November, early December for 2 weekends, and we sell these at a reasonable price. And this is the fun thing. We've now been doing it 3 years, and we've discovered that we've probably flooded the market because we make these quite well.
Yeah.
So people come back 3 years down the line and say, "We've got one of your the reindeer. They're wonderful." Well, do you want another one? No, this one's still going strong. So we haven't built in obsolescence. We're doing this wrong, I think.
What about obviously you can only have one Rudolph, can't you?
No, what about you could have half a dozen?
Some of the golf balls brown, and then they can be all the other the prancers and dancers and vits and blitz and bits and bobs. So then they can have one Rudolph, but then they can have a whole train of them, and then you could make the sleigh.
Yeah.
Got it.
But you got some more pictures. Thank you. Well, it's one of the other questions is, this is one of the other things we make. This is an owl which you chop across at an angle and use the bit you've chopped off to make the wings. You chop a little segment out the top for the ears and use that as the beak. Cute. And then you chop a log horizontally to do the eyes, and then 2 drawing pins.
So lovely.
We make a few of those as well.
Yeah.
So some of them, somebody decided that we'd go cute, and some of them have got glasses on.
Oh, astute and wise, and lovely. Now, if you don't get this joke, then you're too young. Is this something you've sold a lot of?
None at all, because, well, we made that. It's actually on my dining table. I've never actually used it. The problem we were told was you can't do that because you've got to candle straight into the wood. You have to have some sort of cap in there, and however we tried it, we couldn't, unless we used very small candles. You can't do it. So you can put a metal cup in there to hold the candle, and it was really annoying, but we liked it, and it was a good joke.
Yeah, JP's nudging me in the back. He should know this. JP's nudging me saying, "What is it?"
4 candles.
4 candles.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
See, he knows this.
In a 4 candle. Well, somebody actually came in to the shed. We take donations from anybody, and he came in with a crate full of 4 candles with WD on them.
Okay.
There were 60, 70 of these things.
Wow.
And we've sold a few, and we've still got a few upstairs if you want them. I didn't show you the upstairs space on the tour, but we're up there. The main problem with that is the headroom upstairs is 6 foot. Okay. I know this because my head hits the ceiling. But that was one of the silly ideas for other things to sell. But what other photographs did I send you, or have you collected? I think this was.
So this
as
is
I
going
mentioned,
from the ridiculous to, I think, the sublime. These are gorgeous.
This is a barrel. As I said, we've got to tie it with Laithwaites. In England, they are a fairly well-known wine merchant. Okay. They have stores around, and they do mail order. And they, when they finished the barrels, they were throwing them away. And so we said, well, we can. They said, do you want a few barrels? You can have as many as you want. And we got a few. And as you can see, we chopped this one across the middle, which adds a little interest because you'll see that each of the staves has to be screwed in. And because it's oak, you can't just use ordinary screws.
Okay.
You have to drill the steel. You then have to use stainless steel screws, and you have to pre-drill the oak so that the screws don't snap off as you're doing it.
Yeah, sure.
And then somebody got a piece of toughened glass. The inside is the wine colour.
Is
That's
that, I
made
was
the
going
barrel
to
that
ask,
colour.
have you stained it, or is that wine
No,
stained?
that's it. We've
A
done some
lovely
other
colour.
ones with tops, as I mentioned a little earlier. We got some timber from the local steel merchants,
Okay.
and we made a beach top for one of these by
Ooh,
chopping those square pieces of wood into thinner pieces about inch thick,
yeah,
glued them together, and then made a nice seat for the garden.
sweet.
The fun game was, we have a carpenter whose time served as a carpenter, and it took him ages to put those feet on, because of course the barrel curves in that direction and in that direction,
Right,
and
yeah,
those feet are curved to fit that. And then you
sure.
use barrel staves for the base of that.
Gotcha.
So there was a lot of work went into that, and that was actually sold to somebody from Laithwaites.
Lovely.
But that's one of the reasons why we can pay our rent, is
Yeah,
we do work like that.
commissions, yeah. And then that as
That
another
was one. That was
alternative.
actually a commission for Laithwaites, because they use them at shows,
Oh,
because they
sure,
have
yeah.
the barrels around, and they do that, and we lock them, and you see there's a lock in the top of that.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, very nice.
and then we had a lot of fun working out how you hinge them.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, like you say, it's a compound curve, and where do you attach it? And this hinge is going to be working against the other hinge.
Yes.
Um,
And
interesting.
even the hinges you got there have to have pieces of wood on the inside,
Yeah.
because I've forgotten what type of hinge they are now. They're quite long hinges that stick well out from the barrel.
Right.
I think we made 3 or 4 of those,
Very nice.
which we've sold on. This is the space outside, is now covered with a tent which we got from a Rotary club I used to belong to. They
Great.
no longer wanted it. It's 20 years old now, as in thing, but it gives us an extra space, because we ran out of space in the
Sure.
main workshop. So we have to work outside occasionally.
Shed space. It's the final frontier.
Yep.
Yeah, it's nice that you've got this outdoor space. That's, a bit of fresh air, do a bit of sanding out there, keeps the worst of it out.
Yeah.
That's really good.
In the background there, covered by the green thing, is our softwood store.
Okay.
A local shop closed, and they left some racking in the yard, and we knew the area manager for the group. That they said, "Do you need that racking? Can we look after it for you?" And we've been looking after it now for about 4 years. And at some point he might come back and ask for it, but most of the rest of the wood comes out of skips. This
Some of
was
it evaporating along the way. Obviously, being
Sorry?
outside, Being outside, it evaporates. So
Yes, something like
I'm
that.
guessing it's going down slowly.
And this was a table that came in. It was very badly warped, and we had to replace one of the sides underneath to make it flat again. But 2, 3 guys took the chairs and rubbed them down, stripped them right back down, and then repainted them. And we then took that to a local fair and sold that as a table and 6 chairs. There was a lot of work went into it, but it kept one of our members quiet for at least 10 or 15 minutes.
Great. That's reminiscent of thinking of like old sailing ships, where you have a grid covering a cargo hold.
Yes, it was a really nice table, but it had been very badly left, or sort of abandoned and left outside, and it was quite badly warped. And as I say, we took one of the edges off, flattened it by weight and all the rest of it, and put an edge back on it, and it stayed stable.
Good score. Now, on the very dainty side of things, you've got someone who's interested in musical instruments.
The musical instrument wasn't made in our place. We have got a banjo maker there, but the stand was the thing that was made. the guy's actually a chef, and watching him with work with a knife when we have our barbecues, and he comes in and chops the vegetables and things, is absolutely amazing to watch. But he made this for his own banjo at home, which is the one I showed on here. But he inlaid that with aluminium and I think it was brass. So all the flowers were inlaid, and he made a beautiful job of it.
Very nice. It's got a lovely shape to it.
Yes. That was a really nice one.
So what else
was the next one? This was a piece of just a piece of scrap wood that was lying around, and one guy came in when we had our open day. Sorry, when we had our opening, we had a guy come through the door, and he said, "I need some adult interaction." Quite why he came to a shed, I'm really not sure, because adult interaction is not probably the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
But he said, I want to make some guitars. And his first one is in the back there, which is a cigar box guitar. And then he moved on to this. This was just a piece of scrap. I think it's yew, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
That was lying around. And he turned that into a string. I don't know what sort of guitar it is. I'm not musical in any way.
It has a look of sort of lap steel about it, that you play it flat like it is, because the neck is really chunky and you're not going to get your fingers around to the fretboard. So I'm guessing it's a
steel
tabletop.
guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he's made some absolute.
Sorry, if I can just interject. It also looks like it's got one machine head. So it looks like it's a one-note wonder.
I'll pass on that. I would pass you over to Owen if he was with us, but he's not. I should say what Owen does for a living is he has a menagerie.
Ooh.
Snakes, iguanas, tarantulas. He had a tortoise, but he's lost the tortoise. He lives in a 4-story house in the middle of Reading, and his tortoise George was confined on one of the floors and got over the fence. And for the last week and a bit, Owen has been trying to find George, because George has disappeared.
I shouldn't laugh. I'm sorry. Sorry, George.
But Owen takes Owen's animals around Reading to parties and schools and whatever, and the kids think they're wonderful. The parents less enthusiastic, but of course he was spending his life mostly with kids, and he wanted some adult interaction. And say, but when he came in, he'd never done very much woodwork at all, and he's turned out some absolutely amazing. He's got the patience to do all these various bits and pieces. Did you have another picture from the website?
We've got one last one.
Yeah.
Oh, you get a different
as you
angle
can
on
see,
it there. You can see it a little bit better.
Yes, that is a one-string one. Those are his first 3 banjos.
Sweet.
And he's made some really nice guitars beyond that now. And they're you can't see it, but in the middle one, in that hole, he found a brass table with lots of little flowers and butterflies in it. And he's cut the butterflies out and the flowers, and he puts them inside, hidden in the hole.
Sweet.
He really does make an amazing job. You can see the work stuff underneath. That's the one that came from the library.
Very cool.
And 3.5 meters of melamine finished, or formica finished worktop with hardwood edging just went into a skip.
Yikes. We've also been very fortunate to have some pickups like that for our shed, where it's no good to anybody, and what do they do with it? And sadly, it gets dumped. We've had quite a few things along the way like that. Schools are quite bad for that. They very often, I've heard reported, they have a budget for new equipment, but they don't often have budget allocated for maintenance and repair. So stuff doesn't get maintained, and then it's, what do we do with it? And they dump it. So a couple of years ago, I suppose it was now, at the end of the summer holidays, one of the secondary schools was just freshening up all their tables and chairs. So they were just dumping hardwood, like science lab tables, quite high ones. They're absolutely lovely. They're just going to be dumped.
The tables on one side of the main thing are actually beech frames, which were being thrown out by a secondary school in Tilehurst in Reading. The tops were sort of a lino with a hardwood edging,
Mhm.
which had been so badly finished it was we gave up and we turned them over. And this
Okay.
was blockboard, which you can't buy anymore. I'm not sure why, but you can't buy blockboard.
Oh, right.
Once we cleaned all the chewing gum that was stuck to the bottom,
Yeah.
they've been made really nice
Yeah.
worktop, and it's
So
a different
indeed.
height. Our benches are at slightly different heights depending on who you are. You'll go to a different bench depending on your how height challenged you are.
Yeah, that's a nice thing. Yeah, it's a nice
Um,
thing to actually sometimes be working at this height if you're standing. If you're
mm,
working on something up close, that's really
yeah.
nice. Extraordinarily high, but actually can be really comfortable and workable.
Yeah. One of the things, so we had a question about the engraver. I did have a Gravograph engraver, which was absolutely amazing. It had a belt which went round all sorts of things and did it, but it was not particularly quick. And I was then one of my customers. I looked after PCs for small businesses around Reading and Wokingham, and one of them is an engraver, and this one had sat under a bench for 12 years.
Mhm.
And I said, if you're throwing it out, I'll get in the way. So I did, and we played with it for a bit, but then he was upgrading another engraver, which is the one you saw in the video, which is a 16-inch by 24-inch bed, aluminium. It's a two-man lift. It is a solid piece of kit. And he was doing that, and I bought that off him. And in fact, that's mostly mine. That came with, if I say it had a PC running Windows 3.1.
Oh
Now, if
God.
you're old enough to remember, so this was before Windows, way before Windows, really, and it ran also before networking. So 3.1 had no networking capability at all. When Windows went to 3.1.1, and then you got Windows networking capability.
Wow.
So the PC, the battery had gone on the clock, which made for interesting times. But in general, it was old, and there was another controller with it. And now we're going to get technical. If I tell you that the controller, the youngest chip I found in it was 1992. Sorry, 93. There was nothing after 1992 inside. But the controller in there was, and some people will know what I'm talking about, an S100 bus computer with a Z80 on it.
Oh yeah.
So it's a little bus thing. So less processing power than, considerably less than a Raspberry Pi Series
Oh yeah.
1.
For sure. Yeah.
And this was just to control it. So you had a computer which fed the information to this controller. And one day it just stopped working. We'd had it for about 6 months and it just stopped working. And we couldn't work out what was causing it. So one of the projects I've got at the moment is to convert the controller of that to a Raspberry Pi, which I've got and I'm sorting out at the moment. And we've got that now working so that it does X, Y, and Z
Right.
directions. But the next thing is to put an engraving head of some sort in, because the motor that was in there, spindle motor, which runs at 30,000 revs per minute,
Mm-hmm.
had 7 leads on it. Well, I don't know how to deal with that. And of
Yeah.
course, the controller in the Z80 based system, I couldn't do anything with that. So
Yeah.
we're at the moment that's our challenge for when I
Yeah.
get back to the shed.
Yeah. Interesting.
But it's led me on to doing.
Dumping all the furniture and stuff. When we were
Yes,
picking up the furniture, that's right. They had a big white cabinet, looked like a hospital incubator on a wheelie trolley, and I'll just leave the furniture for a second. I'll go and have a quick snoop over there. And big white cabinet with a glazed panel in a lift-up door, and had micro router written on the outside. Subsequent research, something like £7,000 worth of router, CNC router. Spindles missing, And apparently you need their proprietary software, which is like £3,000 worth of software. But all the hardware is there. So hopefully in time we'll stick an Arduino-based board in the back
Yeah.
end of it, drive the stepper motors like any other CNC.
Yeah, which is what I've done with this one that is actually upstairs now in the height space. And that's been driven by a Raspberry Pi with an Arduino hat on it, and that drives the stepper motors.
Ah, neat.
And that works very well once I'd sorted out various bits and pieces. But the original system had a 64-volt power rail. I've reduced that down to 36. And it's getting there.
Great.
But at the moment, it's all coming out of my pocket and it's costing me a fortune. He checks to make sure the door's closed so the management doesn't hear how much it's cost me. But you were saying about furniture, we got all our crew room chairs came from the University of Reading. And we found them and we were going to collect them. And so another department said, no, you can't do that. We want them. And they sat there for another 2 months until the people who were doing the clearing said they've got to go. And we went to collect them and said, if they need them, give us a shout. Well, that was 2 years ago. We haven't heard a word since. Yeah, and we've got something like 16, 18 chairs.
Splendid.
We've so when they get dirty, we can throw them away.
Offices over here, close up.
There is actually, for anybody in the UK, there is a website which do office clearances for people, and they offer to charities free furniture.
Brilliant. That's worth shedding around. Yeah.
What I'll do is when we finish this, I'll send you an email. You can pop it up next time you're on. Yeah. It's something like Renews, and it's they come up with each month. I suspect if you watch their website, you can get to things before. That you just get an email every month to remind you that they're there and they've got things. But they get office chairs and all the rest of it.
That's a great idea. Thanks for that.
But it's keeping an eye on these various bits and pieces.
Yeah. Ours has all come through just reputation. People have heard that we're doing something and renovating. And the amount of times I've had phone calls saying, you interested in this? And initially, yes. We've had space in the greenhouses on the site to be able to store under wraps some of that stuff, because while we're renovating there's just no room and it's really messy. So thankfully we've had a chance to store it, but there's only so much that you can do. But we're now close to the point of starting to ship stuff in. Once this lockdown thing goes, we're putting a ceiling into the southern shed that we have, 2 sheds alongside each other, and once the ceiling goes in and we can put the inner structures in, and then it's a furnishing job, which is so long awaited.
It brings you to one point, though, is we've had to stop accepting donations from widows.
Sure. Yeah.
Because you can only clear so many garages and sheds out.
Yeah.
We have a fine collection of tools. I didn't mention when we were going that tour is we got. I don't remember when you worked in offices. You used to have these trays about 1.25 inches or 3 centimeters deep, and you had lots of them, 10 or 15 in a thing in a stack where you kept paper.
Yes.
So pink paper, blue paper, whatever. And when Reading Borough Council, it's another example of wasting in bureaucracy. When they moved out their offices in the middle of Reading, which they were going to knock down, on a Friday afternoon, all the staff to put their personal stuff into renter crates. The renter crates went out, and Reading Borough Council said, anything you want to local charities you can have.
Yeah.
There was a 7-story building full of furniture, chairs, cupboards, and whatever. So we went round and collected every one of these things we could, and we store tools in them. So we have an alphabetical list of all the tools that we want: screwdrivers, scrapers. There's even one in there marked grid lifters. So if you want to lift your manhole covers,
we
have a full set of different Got no idea why, but we've got them. And as I say, every year January we have a clear out.
Yeah, good
We've
idea.
got to, and I have somebody go through those. The first year when we put them in, we just put them in wherever. We put a label on it and then put a list on top so you could find things. And the following year, I said to one of the guys, "Look, can you put them in alphabetical order?" So he shuffled everything around and relabeled it all, which is all very well until you try and find steel rules, which are under squares. I've got no idea why.
Okay, yeah.
So you have to work out what Richard meant, what Richard thought of when he was putting the labels on.
Yeah, yeah. You could do with a bit
once you sorted that, you're right.
A little bit of toing and froing and agreement on.
Yeah.
We've started doing that with some of these sort of like they use them in primary schools predominantly. The pull-out drawers.
Yes.
We've got several banks of those from one of these schools, and we've been doing exactly the same thing. There are, there's pencils and pens and rulers and files and wood bits, masonry bits, metal bits, all that sort of stuff.
Part of the problem is you end up with so much stuff that nobody really knows where everything is. Yeah. And every January we find things that we think that would be useful. We've forgotten where that was. But it's good. But going back to the thing, you can only help so many widows with their sheds. Mr. Pazard's widow was really generous with the machinery. There's something like £8,000 or £9,000 worth of metalworking machinery there.
Wow.
And that was absolutely brilliant. In fact, we called that room, it's called the Pazard room after Mr. Pazard.
I saw that on the video, yeah.
And one of the other things we got a very generous support from Wokingham Tools, a local tool company, old-fashioned one, where they cleared their workshop out. Sorry, they cleared their stockroom out, and we got several pieces of kit. One was a 10-inch disc sander, a sort of vertical disc sander. On the back, it said the records used to put the year of manufacture on, and the year of manufacture on this thing was 1998.
Okay.
We got it year before last, so it was 20 years old when we got it.
Yep. And
it was brand new in its box, but it had no instructions, or there was one bit missing or something. We got another as you went in the shed, we got a pillar drill, which has got a meter throw on it, so you can move the whole head half a meter out to drill onto the floor or whatever, onto a block. And that came from this same pile. Lots of bits of kit which had just sat in a corner because there was no instructions with it, or there was no mains lead, or something was missing, or it got slightly damaged. They couldn't sell it, and we gave them a donation for the records, and we got a lot of kit from them. And they've been very good as well in general. They give us a good deal whenever we buy things.
I would say that to any other sheds. I'm sure I'm teaching a lot of sheds to suck eggs, but making connection to your local building suppliers it's very useful.
I think it has to be local.
Dump a lot of stuff. That is true. Although we have a B&Q over here, and of course that's national, but we've had some support from B&Q locally. But then on one occasion when I was in there, as I was coming through the checkouts, there's a big poster up saying, community support. Oh, that's interesting. So I spoke to the manager, and she gave me the website to go to, and I filled in the form. So we're on their database now, and this is a national thing that if any B&Q store has clearance stuff that they haven't been able to clear, then they have a list of charities that they are obliged to go down and see what will be appropriate. So
I must admit, I thought we tried that, but I don't think we've ever had anything from them. But it's in general, we found that the local builders supply we had another one in Reading who gave us a phone call and said, I've got a few nails that we can't sell. Would you be interested? So we said yes. And I went along and there was 1.8 metric tons. That's an awful lot of nails.
Yeah. I thought
And
we were doing quite well on that front. One place I went to, I asked about Robertson drive screws, which is a Canadian design. It's the square head. Yeah, you know it. Brilliant design of screw. And I just happened to be there, and I asked one day, "Have you got any Robertson screws?" "Oh no, we haven't got any of those." Then the guy alongside him says, "Oh, we're not getting any more, but we have some, and they're out back, and they're going in a skip. You can have a look at those. They're collated screws. I didn't know what that was at the time, but they're strung together on a body of plastic, like a clip for a machine gun.
Yeah,
and they were clipped on a screw gun." Oh, brilliant! That's really cool. Well, we can just snap them off the plastic and use them.
Yeah.
They're 55 mil long, and 35,000 screws. They were the wrong size, whatever that, wrong size, and they weren't going to send them back because it was like 70 kilos of screws. It was a huge amount. It cost them a fortune to send it back, so that was it. It was just going in the skip. So when I asked at just the right moment. They said, "Yep, you can have them." The extra comedy, and I was like a dog with two tails at the end of the afternoon. I went back to do some work at the shed, and I was brimming with the fact that we'd just been given 35,000 screws. And then the guy that I was working with, actually the plasterer I mentioned before, Michael. Hello, Michael. He said, "Oh, well, you haven't got one of these trowels that would do that." He was doing some concrete work. He's like, "Oh, I'll go and have a look." And we bought a van of tools as a makerspace 3 years ago. And it came with a whole load of tools. A guy passed away quite sadly. And we bought the van and bought the tools. And so I went for a rootle in the van, thinking there'll be some trowels in there. I'm sure there'll be some trowels. And then there was a big plastic case. I thought, I don't recognise that. I wonder what's in. It's not empty. We haven't had the drill out. It's not in the store. I opened it up, and I'd never seen one before. But there, lo and behold, was a screw gun. So not half an hour before, I've just been given 35,000 collated Robertson drive screws, thinking, "Oh, if only we had a screw gun." Anyway, we'll just snap them off, won't we, and use them. Half an hour later, I'm finding a screw gun. Yeah! So I was dog with two tails. And then the fly in the ointment was that it was adjustable up to 50mm screws. And the screws we had were 55. So close. And it wouldn't swing round because it would just be too long to swing round ready to go. And then as I looked at the mechanism, it's a sliding mechanism with a few marks in for the different sort of 5mm indentations. There we go. And I just thought, well, the slidey bit goes on way more than 50mm. Allen key, whipped it off, drilled a hole at 55 just after the 50. Dropped it back on, Allen key, and we've driven thousands of screws in all our stud work and pallet boarding and stuff like that. In fact, our background right now, that's the ceiling of our toilet, or one of our toilets, and it's done with pallet boarding. Lime, a big one, wheelchair accessible, and a little one. And yes, the dots that you can see are the Robertson screws. I just realised look, that there. And that was driven in with this thing, and they are absolutely brilliant. And of course, at any moment, if you need to gain access to the internals of the wall, whatever it is, bit of a wiring or something to do, they just whiz straight off. Off comes the plank, whiz it back on again. The Robertson drives, I've never had one cam out on me properly yet. Not like a Phillips screwdriver that just cams out if it gets a bit grumpy in it. It's amazing. Top job.
It's one of the things that we did buy, and we don't really accept very often, is battery-powered tools.
Okay,
because invariably when they arrive in the shed, the batteries are trying to think of a polite way of putting this.
There's a
not very useful.
Futu.
Yes, that'll do. So, and the batteries cost more than the drill, so you just throw the drill away.
Yeah. Criminal.
which is it's really sad.
Mm.
But that's the economics of it. But we went out and bought some Makita,
Okay,
and we got a deal from Wokingham Tools again of 3 drills, 2 impact drivers, and they get used. But we decided we would buy tradesman quality
that's
because
good.
they do get used a lot more than a DIY one. So the Ryobi or whatever you get from B&Q in general is not designed to be used 6 or 7 hours a day.
Yeah, that's true.
They're designed to be used once in blue moon, if you're lucky. And I'm
Yeah.
maybe being unkind to Ryobi, but maybe I'm thinking of one of the other ones. But you know, the
All the own
cheaper
brand
ones,
stuff. Yeah.
the own brand stuff, really isn't up to the job.
Yeah.
That
said, a number of years ago, but it was probably about 5 or 6 years ago now, I did quite a lot of work over a period of a couple of years in Manchester. And when I was there, sometimes 6 weeks at a time, I would spend an awful lot of time rooting around and finding places. In the big Arndale Centre there was that's a Swedish sort of hardware, they sell everything shop, a bit like Woolworths used to be.
Carl Olsen.
Class Olsen. Class Olsen.
Yeah, there's one in Reading. The last one in England is in Reading.
Is it really?
Yes, they closed all their UK shops except for the one in Reading.
Oh wow, get down there, lad. When I was hopping into Manchester, they were selling off their lithium-ion batteried drills, and I thought, wow, they can't be up to much. They were selling them for £25, which is a steal, especially for lithium-ion batteries.
Yeah.
I thought, great, well, I'll take one of those. And then I came back to Guernsey with it, all jolly chuffed, and gave it a test. And I said, no, actually, this is okay. But of course, they don't sell the spare batteries. So the next hop that I went over to Manchester, I went straight back to Class Olsen and bought another 2. And that was, as I say, 4 or 5 years ago. And I'm still using all 3 of them. One of them, when you change speeds, it sometimes growls at you, in which case you just cycle the gear change and off it goes again. But apart from that, they're all fine. So, and I think that the best price I had was $21.99, which is amazing. So not mega industrial quality, but for what I paid for them, they are serving me very, very well.
I think the difference is the quality of the gearing inside. The DIY ones have got plastic gears. The trades ones in general have steel or metal.
Yeah, sintered metal, that type of stuff. Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah.
A couple of comments have come in. We've had Nick come in and say fab job, and then I chucked it up just before, but I'll chuck it up again. Thanks, chaps. Cracking show. Keep up the good work. Laters. Nick in the Isle of Man. So cheerio, Nick. And then Jeff has chipped in. Piano hinges.
Is that some of those? Would you like some?
I think he's thinking that that's what you were using on the barrel.
No, it won't work. Because
yes, you're right. Yes, it's on the cut. Yeah. No, Jeff. No,
you have to. They're called cathedral hinges.
Cathedral.
They're about 3 inches deep.
Yeah. Okay.
Interestingly, when you buy them, it's trying to work out what the measurement means, because they say they're 3-inch hinges, which is the depth from the edge to the hinge itself, not the depth of the hinge. Right. Normally, when you buy a hinge, you pay for the height.
A 3-inch hinge is
3 inches and 3 inch step.
Yeah.
Not on the cathedral hinges. That's the depth.
It's like a standoff.
Yes.
Distance.
But you still need to mount them vertically, not on the angle of the barrel.
Of course, yes. Hence
so you have to put
blocks of wood on the inside to true it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Very good. Oh, and then Jeff's just chipping in. He's still there. You guys are good. Oh, bless. Jeff,
that's not the usual comment about me.
Jeff, you can come again. We like you. Talking of Jeff, I have uploaded that video in the background. So what I'll do, Tony, is I'll do that. And then what I suggest you do is you shuffle off to the side like that. You go the other way.
You go the other way. Hang on. To work out which was going on. Right.
The other left. That's it. Yeah. Just keep yourself in there, because what I'll do is I'm going to stick this up in the middle, and it'll be in the middle there. Ready? This is Jeff Fox and myself. Last, I think it was summer, You'll be forgiven for thinking it's summer because it's torrential rain all night. As you'll see, this is us doing the Harbour Carnival and chucking ourselves in the harbour. False start. We weren't going to just go for it. No, we weren't just going to go for it. Did I mention it was raining? And
you obviously weren't going for distance.
Yeah, we didn't win. It was the taking
now,
part.
Why doesn't that surprise me?
Counted. But I can't remember how much we raised now. Forgive me. Maybe Jeff can chip in if he remembers how much it raised. But there were a lot of very generous people. We had marker pens and people could write on the shed. It was a foam board shed. So say 4 foot square with a lid on it. And we were just peeking out just underneath the roof and carting it round. People writing on the outside of it, like pledging £5 for the bucket and writing their name on the outside. It was a huge amount of fun. It was a very good PR exercise as well. Yeah, thank you to Jeff for that.
I must admit, I've done some fairly daft things for Roundtable and Rotary over the years, which we won't discuss at this time.
Jeff there, he's just chipped in £800. Thanks, Jeff. That's not bad for an evening's work, eh?
No, it's very good.
It was, huge amount of fun. As I say, exceptional PR as well. We had an awful lot of fun doing it.
I just realised that you can see my T-shirt.
Nice T-shirt.
For my sins, I'm an ambassador for the UK Men's Shed Association. So that means basically I help other people start sheds, or if you need help while you're running a shed, anywhere sort of west of Slough, it seems, judging by the list that I've just been given by Kate from the UK Men's Shed Association. I'm just talking to them at the moment. One of the things we're trying to do is that I'm sure you know there's a on the website there's a find a shed, and you can put information in.
I've got that in the back.
That information is put in by the people who put in. It's not kept up to date. It needs to be kept up to date. So if you've got an entry on there, please go in and make sure it's up to date. But I will be ringing all the guys sort of west of me and sort of southwest of me. I spoke to a guy in Salisbury on what day is it? I don't know. Saturday I spoke to him, and I had other places, and I will be talking to each of them and trying to get the data up to date so that we can keep a track of it.
Gotcha.
We're also doing a quick survey about sheds and finding out things about the way that the sheds are organised and whatever. As you can see, there aren't many sheds around me. There's one in Woking, which I've helped set up quite recently, but there aren't any more. So
that's you there, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the Silver's Workshop. I actually live in Wokingham, but I'm chairman of the Silver's Workshop, so I will continue coming over here. And I don't know, you can't really tell the scale on that, but between my house and the shed, there are 33 sets of traffic lights. Aren't you glad you live on an island?
Just over that little distance there.
Yeah, it's about 11.5 miles.
That's crazy. And do you go along the M4 and A33?
Nope, I use the 329M sometimes.
Okay.
That's interestingly useless information for you. That stretch between the M4 and Bracknell is the only piece of motorway in England which is maintained and owned by the local council. Everything else is owned and run by the Ministry of Transport or whatever they're called this week.
Nationally.
But the 329M is owned by Wokingham Borough Council. And I was going to say maintained, but sometimes I wonder. If you're really bored, you can look up, there is we hate the A329M, which is a discussion because the Department of Transport came along and said, we don't like the way the traffic's queuing on the M4 to get off onto that bit of road. We'll change it. And they reduced a 2-lane highway down to a single lane just so that the cars can get off the M4 onto this thing.
Yikes.
And which is really annoying because the 329M is already over capacity. So there's more cars on it than it was designed for or ever built for. And then they reduced it to a single lane.
Genius.
That's not the word I use, but then we are in polite company.
Yes, ladies present. Jeff, just we have Guernseys us, eh? Yes, referring to your Men's Shed T-shirt there, we have some retro Guernseys. Guernsey being a very famous article of jumpery clothing.
Yes.
Well, I've got one upstairs and I could wear it, but it's just too warm for this time of year.
Feel free to send me one.
Yeah. Well, £15 from the sale of every Guernsey goes to the Guernsey Men's Shed. What can I say? So if anyone's interested, go and have a look at Guernsey Woolens website. If you do a search for Guernsey Woolens, you'll find that. And I'm sure on their website there might be something about the retro Guernsey Guernseys. Yeah. So Jeff is off to get a kayak. You lucky fellow. And somebody says, see you tomorrow, Jeff. And somebody, anonymous Facebook, social distancing in our kayaks. Hi, Marcel and Tony. Well, we don't even know who you are. But hello, hi and bye. Fabulous. Well, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I needs to cover. I don't think there is. You mentioned Kate Gordon, who is the overseer of UK Men's Shed Association ambassadors and such. I don't know what her title is yet. I've met her online.
Hang on a minute. I'll look on the email and see if it says. She's a development officer for the UK Men's Shed Association.
Okay, there you go. And she's,
what does it say on her thing? National Shed Development Manager.
There you go. Cool. Thanks, Jeff. It turns out it's Dennis. Dennis's other half. Don't tell his wife, but Dennis and Jeff are an item. Yes, they're in cohorts together with the whole retro festival thing that started in Guernsey last year. Amazing. But yeah, crazy bunch.
One of the things that I'm hoping to do when we finish this lockdown is go and see some of the sheds I've spoken to over the last 6 weeks or so. Maybe I'll manage to get to Guernsey. I've never been. I've been to Jersey. I've never been to Guernsey yet.
Sorry about that.
Well,
Jersey, the thinking man's Guernsey. No, Guernsey, the thinking man's Jersey. Got it wrong. I even got that wrong.
Do you want to practice that?
Guernsey, the thinking man's Jersey. And people
don't give up your day job.
This one, Bergerac takes his holidays in Guernsey. I met him just recently, actually, at a retro event at Government House. And John Nettles was there. What do you know? And Dennis is saying now registered. Hopefully, yes, Dennis, you followed the link. Thank you very much. Good to see you. Glad you could join us. Awesome sauce. So yes, Kate Gordon, UK Men's Shed Development Manager. She is going to be on the SHEDcast next week. Auspicious because she's the first woman of the opposite sex to come on the SHEDcast. So that's jolly exciting. And yeah, she's amazing and absolutely lovely. I spoke to her a couple of times the other week on various, Skypey type chats in the background. Yeah, she's got a really interesting job and gets to meet an awful lot of sheds and shedders. So
she certainly does that.
Very, very cool. So I'm looking forward to hearing from her. What
Ask
else?
her about canals.
Canals. Okay.
Well, let's say in a you know how you buy things online when you're a bit tipsy.
I wouldn't know.
Oh, I wouldn't either. Actually, I do it when I'm sober. Because I end up with all sorts of fun things like this when I go online.
Oh yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Maybe next week. Anyway,
Yeah.
she apparently she subscribed to Canal Monthly or Waterways World. I can't remember which one it was.
Oh, lovely.
So there you go.
Yeah, yeah. And
I didn't tell you that, did
she
I?
lives in a part of the world with lots of canals, so
Well, she actually comes from the Midlands.
yeah.
She was born and brought up around Cannock way, I believe, or some down that way. Somewhere
Canal.
on the A5, or somewhere on the A5.
So what you just flashed up in front of us was some Arduino type stuff.
Yes, an Arduino Nano.
Yeah, I've got one of those.
The original one, the Uno,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
and this is the one that I've been playing with recently, which is the ESP8266, which has got a Wi-Fi enabled chip on it. This, in
Yeah.
fact, when all the bits are in it, measures the humidity and temperature in my greenhouse.
Very cool.
And then hopefully when I've finished, it will water the greenhouse when it needs it. Because this bit here is measuring the moisture in the soil.
Excellent.
So
well, that's a perfect
it's kept
primer
me
for something I was going to flash out tonight, today, that I flashed out before, but because I've been so wrapped up in PPE kind of stuff, I haven't had a chance to do anything with it. But what I've got there, you'll recognise it, Tony, straight away, is the Arduino Nano with an OLED display. And if I can't, yeah, I can. Let me see. Let me see what I've got back here. I'll see if I can find the sensor. So you're going to want one of these.
Yes, I found there's
sensor.
a guy on the internet, a Swiss guy, who does things, and the one that I got, which is some, if you can see the state of my desk, it's somewhat untidy.
That's pretty good.
But somewhere on here is another. No, it's gone. Which has basically got two metal prongs, and the problem with them is that they the metal prong ones deteriorate.
Yes.
Those ones don't, because they're capacitive.
Yes.
They don't leach the metal into the soil.
Yes.
So if anybody's thinking of doing a soil moisture meter,
that's what you need.
That's what you want.
Yeah, yeah, and they're like a couple of quid.
Yes, if you go for the main problem you get. Sorry, I'm leaning too far forward. The main problem you get is waiting 50 days from China.
Yes, but I've sourced these from the UK, and you'll pay a quid more, but there are people who are carrying them in the UK, and of course they've just bought them for £1.20 from China, but they've stockpiled them and they're sourcing them out of the UK. Same with all of this other stuff.
Yes.
If you're prepared to pay for another quid on something, then you can get it a little bit quicker. I wasn't going to do this today, but actually, seeing as we're talking Arduino, why not? I was going to say
one of the things I did do was buy one of these packs of 16 different sensors.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Well, they were all very well, but there was no instructions with them.
Yes,
they didn't even tell you what each one was. So I've got a collection of little PCBs, and I've got no idea what they're for, some of them.
Yeah, right. Got you. Yeah. So I wasn't going to do this today after all. I sort of thought I'd prime up for it. But actually, look, we're already talking about it. So let's do it. And you're here and I'm here. And the fact this is going on doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. So here we go. Look, this is a project I've been working on for weeks. And I've got here this sort of baskety thing. It's got a flowery job in. I don't know what it is, but it flowers. And I've actually been doing a nasty on it. I've not been watering it this week. I've been really nasty. What I've got here is sweet pepper, you know the big peppers that you buy, the red, green, and blue ones that you buy from the shop in the traffic light pack. You know, the red, orange, and green. That's the one.
Yeah.
Well, last summer I oiked some of the seeds out, as you do, and I chucked them in with this pot plant on the windowsill, and it didn't do anything until over winter. It sprouted, and I've been nurturing it. And this is how big it is. It's struggling a bit. If there's any leafy types out there, something's eating my leaves, and I'm getting some problems with green fly. So because it's above the kitchen sink, every time I wash my hands, which, let's be honest, these days is every 20 minutes, I'm splatting green flies, and I'm splatting eggs and bits and bobs. So it's still taking a bit of a pasting, but it's sort of doing it better than it was a week ago. To the point that, if I can line it up, I'm even getting some flowers coming through, which is jolly exciting because I've never grown one of these before. Very excited about that.
Mm.
But anyway, as you can see, it's possibly looking a bit limp, and that's because I'm terrible. I've let it dry out on purpose, to the point that this flower has just dropped off. But the reason for doing that is because I want to test this in a real world situation. So here, live, I can't believe I'm doing this live. It's amazing. Let's get the light in here. This is just, here's one I made earlier, Blue Peter style. Now, I'm going to jam this into the roots and probably kill it because I'm going through the decent bit of root. Oh, that's making a nasty noise. Yeah, that cut through a few roots on the way. Right, so that needs, okay, so here's the screen. Okay, now, of course, this isn't calibrated. I haven't done any calibration on this at all. But by letting it dry out, I know that it's pretty dry. Evidently, it seems to think that it's a little bit moist, which of course it is a little bit moist. It's not bone dry. But as Jeff said earlier, where's your retro mug? The reason I had it sat on the sofa behind me is because I filled it with water, and I had it on standby so that I could do the watering and we could actually see the thing, well, moisturize, I suppose. That's probably the word I'm looking for. I'm going to have to shuffle things around here, because whilst I've got that sat on the laptop, if I did pour water, it should be sealed. It should be. But if it just whittled through when I pour a cupful of water in, I'd be so cross. So here we go. I'm going to have to do some calibration, obviously, because as you saw it flashing before, maybe if I pull it out, you can see it. This is Blue Peter to the nth degree, isn't it? So if I pull that out now, that should go down, and then it'll flash the display as a warning to say it's really, there we go, it's really dry. Well, evidently I need to change my calibration a little bit, because this is really dry and it should never get this dry. I'm being nasty to my plant for science. But now, if I come up here and if I make a mess and don't pour it on the electronics, let's see. Let's get that in there. Oh, look. Yee. I can tell you I'm excited about that.
I must admit, I'd never tried that with mine. I must do it.
Yeah, almost kill a plant, and you can do this too.
I might not be allowed to do that.
You might have to get one specially to experiment on for scientific purposes. And is it going up any more now? I've had a bit more juice. Obviously, it's going to take a little while, I think, to sort of soak it up. Let's try and look a bit more over here. Obviously, the water it does sort of run to where the sensor is a little bit, so that will skew the result positively a little bit. But then it is sponge dry. But we're getting there. This is a little OLED display, so it doesn't draw much current. So my intention now is to bundle the Arduino Nano with the OLED screen in front of it, out from behind the leaf, such that you can see it on the front of the pot plant or something like that. And it is going up a little bit yet. I'm going to give.
And you can drive it with an with a display like that. you can drive it probably with a 9-volt battery or a couple of
That's true. Yeah.
and you just add 2 wires, 2 pins.
Yeah, minimal power. My intention, obviously being on the windowsill, is that I've got access to main supply. So my intention was to run it on a USB power supply. This is just taking USB power from the computer at the moment, the laptop. Okay, so this is, I don't know how soggy this is in reality. I'll have to let it soak in and then give it a feel later, but I'll have to recalibrate as well, because that, I'm guessing that should have gone a bit higher. Put the last little bit in. Last dribble.
I think on this one I can have it where it digitally triggers as well. And there's a little pot on the
okay, yeah.
On the I don't think you see that on the thing, and you can set a limit so that it triggers the digital output when it reaches a certain point. But I didn't want to do that. I wanted to have an analog display, and I don't think I can show you on this on our screens at the moment.
Okay.
But I've got I use something called Node Red to talk to it, and an MQTT server running on a Raspberry Pi. And these web enabled, they're not web enabled, Wi-Fi enabled Arduinos communicate back to the server, and then I can interrogate the server whenever I want from lots of different places and see what's going on. It's taken me a little bit of time to work it out, because it's I gave up being a programmer in 1982. I was a programmer on PDP-11s for about 7 years.
I got a message in from Dennis just now. Let's have a look. What does Dennis say? I was given a Philips electronic kit when I was about 10, and a moisture tester was in the first circuit I built. Excellent. I then got ambitious and went for a 3-transistor radio next. They were great educational toys. You're absolutely right. Yeah, very often kids these days don't have the sort of sticking power to dig into this stuff.
Well, part of the problem is everything is so integrated. Like you're looking at this little computer. I could get it on the screen. Sorry, I'm not as bright as I might be because of the sun behind me, and it's lighting. Is that better? But
it's because you're getting old. You mentioned it before. You get old, you get dim.
So if I can do it, I don't think you can't see this now because I'm in the wrong place. But it will be there.
Yeah,
but you've got on that. You've got a computer on a tiny little board.
Yeah, that's what I've got there. That's the Arduino here.
But you know, the kids today, you can't do a great deal unless you get it. And I don't know.
I think I mean, this is some of what I do is try to teach kids. In the holidays, working with another organisation that does stuff like this. They do a lot of sort of tutoring and stuff like that for maths and English. Well, we do mechatronics tutoring as well in the holidays. It's got to be led. I mean, expecting kids to just self-initiate is difficult.
Well, it's one of the things I'd like to do with our shed. I don't know if you can do that on Guernsey. Is there are a lot of kids out there who don't have a parent who can do DIY or anything.
Yeah.
And simple things like putting up a shelf or rewiring a plug or whatever, or repairing simple stuff. They don't have the background to do it, and they don't have anybody to show them. And I'd really like to be able to do that. But then you start getting into the I don't know if it's the same on Guernsey, but you have to do DBS checks and all the rest of it, which costs money and all the rest of it. And the amount of hoops you have to jump through just to help children is just
it's difficult.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. That's where tying into another organisation that are doing that sort of thing, that helps.
Yeah.
But that said, I have just had to renew my DBS, and I have to pay for it. Note to self,
Yeah.
must pay. And then Dennis just chipped in again saying, "Hi Tony, I started programming on a PDP 1134 in 1977, then progressed to PDP 1170. You got all the jargon."
Yes. Well, 1134 was fairly small. It's only about that wide.
Mhm.
That wide. And then you've got 2 cards and memory cards and all the rest of it. The 1170 was a big beast for those days. But I was programming marine simulators
Okay,
for a company called Solartron.
right.
I don't know whether Solartron are still around, but that was 1978 through 81. I did it for about 3 years.
Cool stuff.
It's good
The
fun.
whole Arduino thing is transformative, I think. Expecting kids or anyone that I work with kids, then to sort of get the whole analog discrete components, that can be quite difficult. It's not impossible, but it can be quite a mind shift. Whereas the whole programming an Arduino thing, there's logic to it. If they've done programming in Scratch, which they often do in schools, it's a visual programming language. Then that's a good starting point. In fact, what we do with the mechatronics schools in the school holidays is we start out with Scratch, and then there's a version of Scratch for Arduino where it's tethered to the computer and you program it and it does stuff. And then the next step we use some software called MBlock, which allows you to program it visually or with code. You can see both sides of the program, upload it to the Arduino, and then it's standalone. So the last one we did, we built autonomous robots, and it used an ultrasound sensor to see if there was an obstacle in the way. And if there wasn't, it would drive. But if there was, it would take a decision whether it's going to turn left or right, spin around and such. Huge amount of fun.
I've got a friend around the corner who's now got Parkinson's, so he can't do an awful lot in a shed. But he's making a self-balancing robot with just 2 wheels.
Okay. Very cool.
So
yeah, I'd like to have a go with that, actually.
I'm not sure whether my brain's up to it these days.
That's the great thing with this, is the resources. And we've talked about this on previous sheds, and actually this is a neat segue. My encouragement to every one of our sheddy viewers, and non-sheddy viewers for that matter, is while we're in lockdown, take the opportunity to learn something new, experiment, pick something up. If you've been thinking, I'd like to do that when I get round to it, this is your round to it. Make the most of it. You have got the internet at your fingertips. And I know for Arduino-y type stuff, there is so much information, maybe too much.
There's probably too much. But when you think one of these things is £3,
Yeah, £2 or £3, something like that.
£3. Even the wireless ones are on there. I think hang on, they were £175 each from China, and the wireless ones, the Wi-Fi ones, were £278.
Yeah, it's worth playing. I'd start with an Arduino Uno.
Yes, this is a little one
bigger, to play with.
It's quite difficult getting this to the right place. So
I think I dripped water on my computer, and I did actually, and it's going a bit haywire. Well, that's a bit
in which
naughty.
case, I better let you go and you can dry it all out.
I'm going to put this away. I hope this is still streaming, but there it comes. So right, let's disconnect this. So hopefully this plant, you'll see it next week, and it'll be looking lovely. But that's my incentive now, actually, to get this fully up and chooching. Let's ditch that back there. Cool. Yeah, I don't know what I've managed to do, but the trackpad has decided that I'm pressing it when I'm not, and it keeps sliding the screen backwards and forwards.
Trackpads can be interesting.
Yeah, yeah. So there we go. Enough of that. I encourage anybody out there to tinker with something, even if it's cross stitch or sewing and darning the holes in your own socks. Anything. Get creative. You have an opportunity. We all have it given to us on a plate when the norm of life has been knocked sideways. I encourage everybody to play and have a go with stuff. My trackpad is, if you could see what my screen is doing, it's sort of skittering about, and it's look,
We've
it's
got
actually
somebody in the middle now.
yes, that's JP's computer, but it's actually clicking on that when it shouldn't be. On this note, before my computer goes completely schizo mad, I'm going to say, Tony, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's
been great fun.
really great. Absolutely. Join us on a future one. Let us know how things are going.
Yeah. Oh, you've gone. Well, he's gone, so I'm going to go as well. Thank you for joining us.
My computer has gone mad, and I've just jumped on JP's computer, and we've lost sync. Anyway, thank you for joining us. It's been a huge amount of fun on this end. I hope you, as viewers, have enjoyed. It's been great to have a lot of you adding in comments. I've really appreciated that. Dennis just saying cheerio, says thanks, guys. It's been great to have you with us, Dennis. Really great. Thank you. And Jeff as well. And I can't think of who else. Tom earlier. I'm trying to think who else was here. If I scroll up, let me just go for a scroll. I thank a few people. Nick was here from the Isle of Man. Derek dropped in for a little while, and then we give him a load of abuse. And then Jeff came in, and what else we got? And that's sending a comment.
Lag.
Oh, it's this computer's very laggy and slow.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's our time to say goodbye. Thank you for joining us. And we'll see you next Wednesday at 3 o'clock. Cheery.